I had been meaning to get away for weeks. City noise had started to feel like it was vibrating inside my skull, and work had turned into this endless blur of screens and hollow conversations. So when I found a listing for a cheap old cabin up in the Appalachians, no cell service, no neighbors, perfect for writers or hikers, I figured, screw it. My brother laughed when I told him, "You, alone in the woods? You'll last 2 days before you start talking to raccoons." "Maybe that's better than talking to people," I said. The drive started easy. Bright morning, gas station coffee, a playlist that made the world feel manageable. Then the highway turned into a cracked 2-lane road, then into gravel, then into something that barely qualified as a road at all, just ruts carved into dirt by tires that clearly hadn't passed here in a while. The higher I climbed, the quieter everything got. The air felt heavier, thicker somehow. My ears popped, and the radio cut out with a sharp burst of static that made me jump. I checked my phone. No service. Figures. Somewhere after the last road sign, I noticed something strange. A sound. At first, I thought it was wind, that long, low moan that passes through pine trees when the air drops. But this wasn't random. It had a rhythm, like a voice. I slowed down. The sound was coming from the woods to my left, rising and falling, like someone humming through a pipe. And then my engine died. Just click. Silence. I sat there for a second, the only noise the cooling metal. Then that humming started again. Closer now. Lower. Almost right outside the car. I stepped out, heart pounding, breath fogging in the cold air. The forest was still. Too still. And between the trees, about 20 feet away, something was standing there.
I froze. For a few seconds, I couldn't tell if what I was seeing was real or just my brain trying to give shape to shadows. The sun had dipped low enough that everything was the same dull color. Gray trees, gray sky, gray air. It looked tall, not freakishly tall, but tall enough that it stood out from the trunks around it. At first, I thought it might be a person, maybe a hiker, maybe someone from one of those survivalist cabins you hear about in documentaries. But it wasn't moving. It just stood there, half hidden behind a tree, like it was watching me. "Hey!" I called out, my voice sounding thinner than I expected. "You okay out there?" No answer. Just that humming sound again. Except now it wasn't coming from one direction. It was everywhere, like it was echoing through the woods, bouncing between the trees. I backed up toward my car, trying to keep my eyes on the shape. It shifted slightly, and for a split second I thought I saw something. Pale skin, maybe? Or fabric? I'm not sure. Then it melted back into the shadows. I jumped into the car and slammed the door shut. Tried the ignition again. Nothing. For a moment, all I could hear was my own breathing. Then I noticed something. The humming had stopped. Completely. The silence was almost painful. Then, right behind me, something tapped on the trunk. Once, twice, 3 slow, deliberate knocks. I turned around so fast I hit my head on the roof. The rear window was fogging up from the inside, which didn't make sense because I wasn't breathing that direction. And in the condensation, a word started to appear, drawn by an invisible finger. Stay.
I don't remember making the decision to leave. It was just pure panic. I grabbed my backpack, flashlight, and started walking down the road, putting as much distance between me and that car as I could. The air felt heavy, like it was pressing against my chest, and every few seconds I'd glance back, half expecting to see someone standing beside the vehicle. I told myself it was just condensation, some trick of my own breath, anything to make it make sense. But I knew what I saw. The letters had been written from inside the car. After about an hour of walking, I spotted a dirt path cutting off the main road. There was an old wooden sign, half rotted, the paint flaked away except for the faint outline of a word, cabins. It had to be the place from the listing. By then it was almost dark. The forest swallowed the last bit of sunlight, and the only sound was the crunch of gravel under my boots. The path wound uphill for what felt like forever, until suddenly through the trees I saw a faint orange glow. Light. I can't describe the relief that hit me. I almost laughed. Maybe someone was up here after all. Maybe I could borrow a phone or at least figure out how to get a tow truck in the morning. When I got closer, I realized it wasn't a modern cabin. It looked ancient. The logs were dark with rot, and the roof sagged in the middle. The light was coming from a single window, flickering like candlelight. I knocked. Nothing. Knocked again. "Hello, my car broke down the road." Still nothing. The doorknob turned easily when I tried it. The door creaked open into a room that smelled like smoke and wet wood. There was a fire burning low in the fireplace, small but real, and on the table beside it, an old oil lantern. Someone had been here recently. I stepped inside, calling out again, but my voice sounded wrong, muffled, like the room was swallowing it. And then I felt that prickling sensation at the back of my neck, the one you get when you realize you're being watched. And then, from deeper inside the cabin, I heard it, a single, slow breath, like someone had been holding it in the whole time, waiting for me to cross the threshold.
I froze just past the doorway, every instinct screaming at me to get out. But something about that breath, it wasn't aggressive, not exactly. It sounded tired, ragged, like whoever it was had been breathing through dust for too long. "Hello?" I said again, my voice low this time. "I don't mean to intrude." The fire crackled, throwing shifting shadows across the cabin walls. There was a coat hanging near the door, old and stiff with age. A pair of muddy boots sat beside it. Someone lived here, or had until very recently. The sound came again, closer now, from the next room. I stepped carefully across the creaking floorboards, holding my flashlight in front of me. The beam caught on dust motes, and something else. Scratches, carved into the wall beside the doorway. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, like tally marks. I reached out without thinking, tracing one with my finger. It was deep, too deep for fingernails. And then I heard it, a whisper, right next to my ear. "Don't stay after dark." I spun around so fast the flashlight clattered to the floor. The beam rolled, cutting across the floorboards, and for a moment I swear I saw feet, bare feet, standing just beyond the edge of delight. Then the beam hit the far wall, and the feet were gone. I scrambled for the flashlight, heart hammering, when I noticed something else. The fire in the hearth had gone completely out. 1 second it was burning, the next only smoke curling upward. And in that sudden dimness, I saw something move at the edge of the doorway. Not a person, not quite. Tall, wrong-shaped. It lingered for a heartbeat too long, then slipped soundlessly back into the dark. I backed toward the exit, keeping my light on the doorway. My hand found the knob,
cold, almost wet to the touch, and I yanked the door open. Outside, the woods were black. The sky looked lower than before, heavy with clouds. But the path I'd come up on was gone. Just trees, endless trees. And behind me, from inside the cabin, the whisper came again. This time, clearer. You brought it with you.
I bolted into the woods. I didn't think. I didn't even pick a direction. I just ran. Branches slapped my face. Roots caught my shoes. The cold air tore through my lungs. But I didn't stop. Every time I slowed down, I swore I could hear it behind me. That same dragging, uneven rhythm, like something walking just a few steps too late. After maybe 15 minutes, I stumbled onto what looked like a dry creek bed. I followed it downhill, figuring water had to lead somewhere. My flashlight was dying, flickering weakly. Every time it dimmed, the darkness around me seemed to move. Not fast, just shifting, like the trees were breathing. Finally, I spotted something through the fog, a clearing. And there, impossibly, was my car. Same dent on the front bumper, same cracked mirror. It was parked perfectly in the middle of the clearing, headlights off, but the interior light was on, faint and yellow, like someone was sitting inside. I stopped about 10 feet away. I could see the driver's silhouette through the glass. At first, I thought maybe it was a trick of the light. Maybe I left something on the seat. But then the figure moved, turned its head slowly toward me. I whispered, "No, no, no," under my breath, and took a step back. The figure inside tilted its head, exactly like I did. And then, I swear to God, it smiled. I could see teeth catch the light, not human teeth, too many, too long. Something inside me snapped, and I turned to run again, but the forest didn't look the same anymore. The clearing behind me was gone, replaced by fog and dead trees. The ground seemed to shift beneath my feet, soft and unsteady, like walking on lungs. When I finally stopped to catch my breath, I realized I could still see a glow through the fog. My car's interior light, still burning, still waiting. And then I heard the sound again, the humming. Only this time, it wasn't coming from the woods. It was coming from me.
It started deep in my chest, like a vibration under the skin. At first I thought it was my heartbeat, just adrenaline, panic, but it wasn't. It was too steady, too rhythmic, like something mechanical or alive in a way that wasn't human. I pressed a hand to my sternum. I could feel it. Something humming inside me, faint but real, resonating like a tuning fork buried under bone. I dropped to my knees, gasping, the flashlight trembling in my hand. When the beam hit the ground, I saw the soil moving, tiny ripples spreading outward from where I knelt, as if the earth was responding to the sound coming from me. "Stop!" I whispered, but the vibration only grew stronger. It wasn't pain exactly. It was more like being used, like my body had become a speaker for something else. Then, through the fog, I heard the humming answer back. A second tone, higher, sharper. It was echoing me. No, it was tuning to me. I staggered backward, clutching my chest. Every tree seemed to pulse in time with the sound, every shadow trembling with it. My head felt full, like a radio catching two stations at once, both trying to get through. Somewhere in the distance, I saw a light again, flickering, not steady, not the car this time, something else. Lantern light, moving through the trees. I ran toward it, half stumbling, half dragging myself through the underbrush until I reached a small ridge. The light was coming from below, from what looked like a church, or what used to be one. Just the skeleton of it remained, a bell tower leaning to one side, windows shattered, the cross above the door rusted and bent. The light swayed inside, faint but inviting. I hesitated at the top of the hill, the humming in my chest almost painful now. And then a voice, soft, feminine, drifted up from the church. It said my name, once. Then again, slower. No one up here knew my name. I don't know why, but I started walking toward it anyway.
The closer I got, the colder it became. The air seemed to thin, like the mountain was breathing in and never exhaling. Each step felt heavier, and the humming inside me started sinking with something else, like there was a second heartbeat buried deep under the ground. The church looked worse up close. The paint had peeled down to gray wood. The door hung by one hinge, and the bell tower above was split by lightning long ago. I pushed the door open, and the sound it made was this long, aching groan, like the building was remembering pain. Inside, everything was dust and decay. Broken pews, rotting hymnals, and a pulpit that leaned like it was drunk. But at the center, right where the altar should have been, was the light. A lantern, burning low and steady, sitting in front of something covered by a sheet. And beside it, someone stood perfectly still. At first, I thought it was a statue. The figure didn't move, didn't even seem to breathe. It wore a long, dark coat, and its head was slightly tilted toward the lantern. "Hello?" I said. My voice cracked like I hadn't spoken in days. The humming inside my chest surged, almost violently. I dropped the flashlight. It clattered across the floor and rolled until it stopped at the figure's feet. The light hit its face. It wasn't a statue. It wasn't alive either. The skin was pale, grayish like melted wax. The eyes were sunk deep, wide open but empty, and its mouth was stretched in a strange half-smile. Its throat looked torn, like it had once tried to speak and failed. Then I noticed its hand. It was pointing at the covered object on the altar. I don't know why, but I reached for the sheet. When I pulled it away, there was a mirror beneath, old, cracked, the silver peeling away. But the reflection, it wasn't me. The face in the glass was moving differently, delayed, and it was smiling. Then, in that reflection, I saw it, the figure behind me. But when I turned around, it was gone. Only the lantern remained, flickering wildly now. And for a second, I thought I heard that same voice again, whispering from the walls, from the wood, from inside my own head. It found you.
I stumbled backward so hard I hit one of the pews. The lantern's flame flickered wildly, shadows snapping across the walls like something alive. I stared at the mirror again, but the reflection was wrong. It was breathing. The glass pulsed softly, fog blooming on the inside of it, as if someone trapped behind the surface was exhaling. "Stop it!" I whispered, not sure if I was talking to the mirror or to myself. The reflection smiled wider, that same warped grin, and lifted its hand. Mine didn't move. I was frozen, but it waved slowly, like mocking me. Then its mouth opened. Too wide, too dark, and for just a second I saw something inside it move. I backed away toward the door, but it felt like the church had stretched, the walls farther apart, the air thicker, heavier.
The humming in my chest rose to a piercing tone. I clutched at it, and under my palm something shifted, like something under the skin was trying to crawl out. Then the lantern went out. Instant blackness. And in that dark, I heard breathing again. Not from the mirror this time. All around me. Deep, animal breaths, a shuffle of feet on the warped wooden floor. I swung my dying flashlight around, but the beam only reached a few feet. In it, I saw movement. Shapes. 3, maybe 4. Their heads tilted, their bodies unnaturally thin. Their faces looked wrong, like someone had sculpted them from melted wax and forgotten where eyes and mouths should go. The flashlight flickered once, twice, and then the beam landed on the mirror again. Only it wasn't a mirror anymore. It was a door. Through the cracked glass, I could see the clearing where my car had been, the interior light still glowing faintly, and something sitting in the driver's seat, waiting. The figures in the church turned toward me in unison, heads snapping like they'd heard a command. The air vibrated, low, harmonic, the same hum now echoing from them. I ran. Didn't think, didn't breathe, just sprinted through the door, down the hill, branches clawing my arms. Behind me the sound followed, that endless rising hum, so loud it felt like it was splitting my skull. When I finally stopped, I realized where I was standing. Right in front of my car. The door was open, and the keys were in the ignition.
My brain screamed to run, but my legs didn't listen. The driver's door hung open like a mouth, and the car's interior light burned a sickly yellow. I leaned closer, trying to see if anyone was inside. Empty. At least, that's what I told myself. The seats looked damp. The air inside smelled like earth and rust, like the inside of a cave. But the keys were there, dangling in the ignition, swaying slightly, even though there was no wind. I hesitated, then whispered out loud, maybe to prove I was still in control. Just get in. Drive. Don't look back. The engine started on the first try. After everything that had happened, it purred like nothing was wrong. The headlights cut through the fog, catching glimpses of trees, rocks, and mist, and for a moment, I thought I saw figures between them, standing perfectly still, like pale markers on both sides of the road. I drove fast, too fast for that narrow mountain path, eyes locked straight ahead. The humming had stopped. Total silence, except for the engine and my heartbeat. Then, after a few minutes, something changed. The road started looping. I passed the same fallen tree, then again and again. I slammed the brakes and sat there shaking. The headlights illuminated something just ahead, a wooden sign, half broken, half rotted. It said, "Cabins, Arrow, 1 mile." No, that was impossible. I'd gone downhill. I should have been halfway to town. I reversed hard, gravel flying, heart hammering in my throat. My headlights swung across the forest, and for a split second I caught movement. Something ran through the trees, fast, hunched, almost crawling. I didn't look directly at it, just gunned the gas, praying I'd hit asphalt soon. After maybe 10 minutes, I saw another light ahead, white, steady, cutting through the fog like a beacon. My chest flooded with relief. A house? Another car? Civilization? I slowed down, the humming in my chest fading to nothing. As I pulled closer, I realized what I was looking at. It wasn't a house. It wasn't another car. It was my car. Same dented bumper, same cracked mirror, headlights on, engine idling. And through the windshield, I saw a shape sitting in the driver's seat, hands gripping the wheel. face turned toward me. It was me.
I slammed the brakes. The tires screamed against the gravel, and for a second, both cars, the real one and the one in front of me, sat there idling in the same rhythm, like a reflection caught in a time loop. The headlights from the other car hit my windshield, blinding me. I threw my arm up and squinted. Through the glare, I could just barely see the outline of me sitting behind that other wheel. Same jacket, same hair, same terrified eyes. But the thing in the other car wasn't moving quite right. Its head twitched in small, broken jerks, like a bad video buffering. And then it smiled. Too wide, too wrong. I whispered, "No, no, no," and shifted into reverse. My tires spun in the dirt. The car didn't move. The other me opened its door. The sound was all wrong, too loud, too long, like the hinges were made of bone. It stepped out slowly, every movement slightly delayed, like the world had to catch up to it. Its feet left dark, wet prints that steamed in the cold night air. When it reached my door, I locked it and hit the horn. Nothing. Dead silence. The world itself seemed to have muted. It leaned down until its face was level with mine through the glass, and for the first time, I realized its eyes weren't reflecting light. They were absorbing it, pitch black, like holes punched through reality. It mouthed something I couldn't hear. Then, slowly, deliberately, it placed its hand, pale, too long-fingered, against the window. I didn't move. Couldn't. Then I felt it, the humming again, deep inside me, stronger than ever. The glass between us began to vibrate. And before I could react, I was no longer in my seat. I was outside, looking in. Through the windshield, I saw myself sitting behind the wheel, eyes wide, hand gripping the key. The engine purred steadily. I tried to scream, to pound the glass, to do anything, but the car started rolling forward, down the road. I watched the taillights disappear into the fog, until there was nothing left but the hum, low and endless, shaking the trees. The woods are quiet now. I can't feel the cold, can't feel much of anything. But sometimes, when the fog rolls low over the valley, I see headlights winding up the old mountain road. And if you ever drive that way, late at night, if your car stalls near the ridge and you hear a low humming from the trees, don't look toward the light, don't check the mirror, because it's not the road that's looping, it's you.